Hello and welcome to our ATRY channel. Today, we will explain and provide examples of the 21 principles in Dokkodo by Miyamoto Musashi. Through Musashi's teachings in the Dokkodo, we can learn valuable lessons that resonate even today. We invite you to share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. So, without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Accept everything as it is. Not resisting unchangeable realities helps bring peace of mind. Acceptance is the first step towards liberation and understanding the transient nature of life. Takitsu explains that this idea, like many in the Dokkodo, belongs to the tradition of Buddhism. According to Imai Masayuki, the 10th headmaster of Musashi's swordsmanship school, pain and hardship are part of life. One should freely and readily accept this truth of human nature. Do not look for an easy life, because there is no such thing. One could hardly wonder why this came to mind in Musashi's final days, as he grappled with his own mortality. Some things just cannot be changed and must be accepted just as they are. There's no point living in denial about your current circumstances or your past. Don't have a very rigid worldview. You need to be flexible in your understanding of the world. Don't try to change the interpretation of something to fit a pre-existing structure. Always adjust your mental models to reality, instead of engaging in self-delusion and projecting what you want reality to be onto actual reality. Beware cognitive dissonance. Example, when facing job rejection, instead of feeling sad or trying to change the impossible, see it as an opportunity to explore other options. Application. Learn to accept every challenge in work and personal life without judgment, focusing instead on solutions. Number 2. Do not seek pleasure solely for self-gratification. Live passionately, but don't get overly caught up in seeking personal satisfaction, as this can lead to excessive desires. A life of self-discipline requires you to pursue what is meaningful and useful, often at the expense of what is pleasurable or expedient. For Musashi, happiness is not an end in itself worth chasing. It is fleeting, and simply a byproduct of pursuing meaning, growth, and mastery. As Takitsu explains, renouncing pleasure, for Musashi, is a basic condition for arriving at what is essential. In this he is following the path that has been followed by other great accomplished practitioners of the martial arts. Asceticism of this sort is connected with a view of life that sees the agreeable aspects of existence as obscuring its depth, which is hard and heavy. Musashi seeks to avoid being detained at the level of pleasure, which would only distract him from the essential. Again, Takitsu points out that such a conception of life is derived from Buddhist thought as well as ancient Japanese notions of nature and the world, two pervasive themes throughout this text and all of Musashi's writing. Do not get emotionally attached to pleasure. Pleasure for the sake of pleasure lowers your level as a human being. It makes you less human and more animalistic. If you did not understand the previous point, think of people who are addicted to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, or whatever. They have only one God, their fix. Pleasure in itself will not fulfill you. Satisfaction is secondary to purpose. Happiness is a byproduct of achievement, self-understanding, and calmness. Pleasure has to be earned. When you chase pleasure for the sake of pleasure, you feel good without earning the right to the dopamine. It only fulfills the body, not the spirit. Just take a look at the story of the Buddha. The man had everything. He was a prince, and yet he still wasn't satisfied. Something was lacking. Example, when spending leisure time, choose activities that provide long-term value, such as reading or exercising, rather than just focusing on short-term pleasures like watching videos or gaming. Application. Instead of always chasing short-term enjoyable experiences, seek joy in personal growth and helping others. Number 3. Do not rely on transient emotions. Emotions can change easily and often lead us to make poor decisions. This rule relates to the idea of hijishin, used frequently in the context of martial arts, meaning presence of mind. Maintain a clear-sighted view of your circumstances, eschew biases and preconceived notions, and practice decisiveness. Learn to trust your intuition when relying on only a partial feeling. Your gut, often referred to as the second brain, will indicate that something is wrong. Later, we'll dive more deeply into Musashi's fixation on congruence, self-trust, and self-reliance. Rule 15. When you're not sure of something or someone, you need to be very cautious with how you move forward. Kind of believing in something is not the same as actually believing in something. This includes self-belief. This is why most people fail at everything they try. Some things require 100% conviction, and if you feel unsure, you need to take a step back to refine and rethink your plan. A thoughtless attack leaves you open for a counterattack. Example, when in conflict with a colleague, instead of reacting strongly, stay calm and take time to think before responding. Application, when making important decisions, consider carefully rather than reacting based on fleeting emotions. Number 4. Think lightly of yourself and deeply about the world. Humility is the key to understanding the larger world. This beautiful aphorism reminds us of the all-too-human tendency to view ourselves as the center of the universe. This is an exercise in humility. Takitsu explains that Musashi is inviting us to meditate on our own smallness, another decidedly Buddhist concept in relation to the power of nature, the immensity of the world, and the ever-changing, unpredictable essence of reality. Maintaining a light sense of self will facilitate better judgment, adaptability, and growth, and can act as an antidote to frustration and pain. Do not become a self-absorbed person. It only blinds your judgment. Create a working mental model of the world and constantly improve it as you gain more knowledge and experience. If you maintain a light sense of self, you'll find it easier to move on and move beyond. You're more adaptable to change, and in everything, your ability to change and thrive sets you apart from the rest. Example, when facing difficulties in life, refer to the overcoming stories of others for a new perspective and avoid sinking into self-pity. Application, instead of being arrogant, broaden your view to learn from those around you and new experiences. Number 5. Let go of lifelong desires. Constantly chasing desires keeps our minds restless. Machida posits that human beings are driven by various cravings. They motivate us to take action, but all too easily lead us astray. Takitsu says this includes the desire to be viewed favorably by others, the egotistic desire for material riches, and the desire to surpass others and/or defeat them. This is another Buddhism-inspired sentiment, and foreshadows many of Musashi's later rules. While it's impossible to renounce your desires entirely, practicing detachment can help us maintain presence of mind or hydration. See Rule 3, to focus on what truly matters. Everyone has desires. Don't get so attached to them that you lose perspective. Like a drug addict craving his fix who is blind to the consequences of his actions. An attachment to desire leaves you open to manipulation and mistakes. Think of how many men are controlled by sex, validation, and other desirable feelings. Example, instead of always wishing for more money and possessions, learn to appreciate and be content with what you have. Application, rather than yearning for material things, invest in spiritual development and inner peace. Number 6. Do not regret your actions. Regret is just a waste of time. Accept your decisions and actions regardless of the outcome. Mistakes hurt, but not as much as inaction or missed opportunities. No one is perfect, and you can't change the past. See Rule 1. Break free from the shackles of regret and learn from every misstep. This was critical for Musashi, a lifelong student of the martial arts, in swordsmanship and fighting sports. A practitioner is constantly faced with failure of the most humbling, painful variety. Their success is predicated on their ability to learn from it and move on. More broadly, mistakes are part of life, and those lessons are a part of you. Things don't happen to you. They happen for you. You just need to dig through the discomfort to find the underlying lesson. One reliable way to free yourself from regret is look back on an action you experienced as shameful, regrettable, or embarrassing. Promise yourself it will never happen again, and make a plan to ensure that's the case. Regret is a wasted emotion, a sunk cost. If you feel guilty over something, make a note of it and learn from that mistake. But never hold deep regrets over it. It'll only slow you down without helping the situation. You cannot change the past. Example, after making an undesirable business decision, instead of regretting, learn from that experience to improve management skills. Application, learn from failures, but do not let them hold you back in the past. Number 7, do not envy the success of others. Envy drains your positive energy and distracts you from focusing on yourself. Jealousy, like regret, is often toxic. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they say, and we often fall into the trap of measuring our behind the scenes against others' highlight reels. While Musashi advises against using others as merely a basis for comparison, there is immense value in what psychologists call social learning. We've explored how observing and modeling comparable others serves as a useful tool for promoting a sense of positive self-efficacy. According to the psychologist Albert Bandura, on one hand this works because social comparative inference can open, or close, your mind to what is possible. Your perceptions of your own capabilities and efficacy are impacted considerably by watching comparable others succeed or fail. We can also learn vicariously through peers and role models, imitating their actions and adapting them for our own toolbox. Get inspired, not jealous. Jealousy is a waste of time. Jealousy only hurts you. It robs you of the happiness of what you have and only brings you dissatisfaction for what you don't. Jealousy is a trap because wants are infinite. Jealousy/envy is the only sin where you suffer instead of having fun. When you commit other sins, at least you enjoy it. Jealousy is just suffering. Example, instead of being jealous of a colleague's promotion, view them as a source of motivation and find ways to improve yourself to achieve your own success. Application, focus on your own path and celebrate the successes of others as inspiration. Number 8, do not let emotions guide your mind. Regulating emotions is a way to maintain stability and not be swayed by external influences. This rule takes on many meanings for Musashi. He spent most of his life traveling, honing his swordcraft against foes far and wide, making it difficult to cultivate strong connections with others. He practiced Zen Buddhism which, as Takitsu explains, teaches that separation is an illusion, a mental folly of mistaking the transient for the immutable. And according to Bennett, this rule was a clear allusion to death from a man in his final hours. Musashi understood he would soon endure a great and final separation. As many Buddhists practice Amarasati meditation, using visualization and contemplation techniques to meditate on the nature of death, so too did the Stoics observe the phrase memento mori, remember death. As author Ryan Holiday explains, the contemplation of death is not intended to dishearten you, but instead acts as a tool to create priority and meaning. Finally, Bushido, the warrior code of the samurai, at its most basic was said to be the way of dying, or living with an intense familiarity of death, as captured in Hagakure. This is another form of practicing detachment. See Rule 5. While grief is a normal human emotion, understand and accept that all things, every event, relationship, and even life itself comes to an end. This allows you to prioritize, maintain presence, appreciate things more fully, and live with a sense of urgency. Attachment is different from love. If you lose someone, you let them be free. Separation is inevitable. Like how a crow flies away from the pond after drinking. The job is done and it's time to go. People come and go. Men and women live and die. The only constant is God. Example, when feeling angry, stop and practice deep breathing to regain calmness before making a decision. Application, when facing difficult situations, calmly assess instead of reacting emotionally. Number 9, let go of blind attachments. Attachments can cloud your judgment. Do not let emotions dictate every decision. Mark Twain once said anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Resentment, malice, and anger cloud your judgment and impede clarity and presence of mind. See Rule 3. Like jealousy and regret, a tendency to hold grudges hinders your pursuit of the way. What good is a grudge to a man on his deathbed? To forgive is to free yourself from a form of unnecessary attachment, i.e., clinging to a past hurt, and to continue on your journey unburdened. Once again, resentment and the problem mindset only slows you down and decreases happiness and calmness, not good. Example, in an unhealthy relationship, have the courage to let go instead of holding on despite a loss of trust. Application, maintain healthy boundaries in relationships and do not allow yourself to be exploited or lose control. Number 10. Do not let desires manipulate you. Excessive cravings often lead to conflict and suffering. Mahatma Gandhi was fundamentally antithetical to Musashi. In all ways except one, they were true essentialists, both practicing non-attachment to obtain the clarity and presence necessary to pursue a higher mission. Gandhi lived the life of a poor mendicant, and when he died, owned fewer than 10 items. Similarly, Musashi defied the all-too-human penchant for attachment in all forms: attachment to love, luxuries, delicacies, possessions, grudges, ego, superstitions, and even the tools of his trade. For this specific rule, the translations vary, with some claiming that Musashi was referring to love, and others describing the focus as more diffuse. But love and passion, like all forms of attachment, are desires that can distract you or lead to mistakes. See Rule 5. For Musashi, attachment was indulgence, and indulgence leads to daze and distraction. This theme spans many of his rules. Understand that all things, objects, emotions, relationships, even life itself, have an end. Practice detachment and pursue presence of mind in your pursuit of mastery, a higher purpose, and the way. An open mind will enable you to have broad and varied experiences. Sticking only to what you know makes you a fish in a small pond. If you accept life as it comes to you without expectations, you will have very few unhappy days in your life. Both love and lust affect your judgment adversely. People have sacrificed everything: money, reputation, and freedom in a moment of desire and lust. It was never worth it. Example, when faced with the temptation to overspend, recall your long-term financial goals and consider carefully. Application, practice moderation and learn to be content with what you have. Number 11. Do not act for personal gain. Actions not driven by greed will bring sustainable value and pride. An open mind will enable you to have broad and varied experiences. Sticking only to what you know makes you a fish in a small pond. If you accept life as it comes to you without expectations, you will have very few unhappy days in your life. This is another enigmatic precept that varies between translations. Machida points out that at the end of the 16th century, various artistic ways sought to reflect on an irreplaceable sense of beauty in everyday humble things, like the way of incense, flowers, or tea. While all things have their own beauty, story, and meaning, all too often these ways become metaphysical and abstract, and the beauty or rituals are held in a higher regard than the thing itself. Musashi, a practical man, would have seen this trend and wished to draw a line. Don't be distracted by ostentation, glamour, and luxury. Many masters in their respective crafts rise from humble beginnings. From the seeds of adversity and obscurity, they cultivate tenacity and succeed because of it. Stay focused, disciplined, and detached. Some of the most valuable things in your pursuit of excellence won't be pretty, but they'll be useful. Pursue optimal performance as a vehicle for developing yourself, not for glamour and attention. Example, in teamwork, contribute ideas aimed at improving the project's quality rather than just to stand out. Application, when making decisions at work, consider the common good rather than personal benefit. Number 12. Do not fear death. Fear of death can prevent you from living fully. Embrace life and death with equanimity. Keeping up with the Joneses can be a great distraction and hindrance to your pursuit of a better life. And as explored in Rule 11, luxury and beauty should not be an end in itself. As demonstrated by the rising popularity of minimalism, people are discovering that attachment to worldly possessions and stuff can do more harm than good. Your sense of satisfaction should not come from the things you accumulate. In his poem Let It Enfold You, Charles Bukowski remarks that a life of glamour, comparison, and fleeting pleasures can wear you down. Cautiously, I allowed myself to feel good at times. I found moments of peace in cheap rooms just staring at the knobs of some dresser or listening to the rain in the dark. The less I needed, the better I felt. If you are happy, it does not matter whether you're living in a palace or a jungle. If you are frustrated and sad, it does not matter whether you're a pauper or a prince. Refer once again to the life story of Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. In the age of the internet, you don't need to be at a particular place at a particular time. You can run your business from anywhere that has an internet connection. Example, when facing risks in life, live each day fully without allowing the fear of failure or loss to hinder you. Application, instead of fearing, focus on living meaningfully every day. Number 13. Do not depend on material possessions. Material possessions do not provide lasting happiness. In the same way Musashi renounces luxuries in his home, he does not pursue exquisite foods and other indulgent trappings, another ascetic principle. Musashi was a warrior. Food is just a way to get nutrition and energy. The taste is secondary. The lower your materialism, obsession with pleasure in things, the less you care about taste. The higher your materialism, the more you are obsessed with taste. This is why highly materialistic people tend to obsess with things like taste of coffee and by comfort foods. Example, instead of focusing on accumulating wealth, invest in valuable experiences and relationships. Application, seek joy from non-material things such as friendship, family, and life experiences. Number 14. Do not try to hoard wealth. Greed for wealth leads to suffering. Live simply. As explored in previous rules, Musashi finds the pursuit of a luxurious home, fine food, and fanciful possessions distracting. Here, Bennett points out that Musashi is likely referring specifically to family heirlooms and other sentimental things. Musashi had an appreciation for a thing's utility, but parted with it when it was no longer useful to him. Fittingly, in his final days, the warrior poet gave away the last of his possessions to friends and pupils. However, in a last fit of irony, most were kept as heirlooms and passed on for many generations. Musashi was a wanderer. The more you carry, the harder and riskier your way becomes, both physically and metaphorically. Example, consider donating a portion of your income to charity or supporting those in need instead of hoarding for yourself. Application, consume wisely and do not let yourself be controlled by materialism. Number 15. Do not envy others. Envy causes you to lose joy in life and gratitude. Musashigyo was the samurai warrior's quest or pilgrimage for improvement, similar in concept to the Chinese yoxia, or knight-errantry in medieval Europe. A young warrior would travel continuously, practicing and honing their skill in the martial arts without any protection from their family or school. They often lived off the land and worked odd jobs to sustain themselves, developing in the process discipline and mental fortitude. For the lone, vagabonding warrior, it was an existential necessity to have trust in oneself and one's abilities, to be unhesitating and congruent, wholly aligned in thought and action. And while Musashi was a student of Buddhism, Takitsu explains that in a period in which most Japanese were subject to a great number of superstitious beliefs, Musashi dared to reject them in order to try to see the world as it is. Above superstition, the ever-practical Musashi valued hijishin. UFC champion Conor McGregor famously dismisses superstitions and good luck routines. Ritual is another word for fear. He explains, describing how performers become reliant on and handicapped by nonsensical routines and superstitions, rather than build confidence. According to the fighter, the rituals are only signs of trepidation, weakening their self-belief and self-efficacy. Think for yourself. Don't become a blind NPC. Just because everyone else is doing something doesn't make doing it a good idea. Just because no one does it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Example, when friends succeed in their careers, instead of feeling envious, sincerely congratulate them and learn from their journey. Application, appreciate what you have instead of comparing yourself to others. Number 16. Do not place excessive demands on yourself and others. Setting too high expectations can exhaust you and create unnecessary pressure. Musashi found value in practicality alone. Even the Japanese weapons he came to master, which are renowned to this day for their supreme workmanship and aesthetic qualities, were not collector's items. They were tools. And like a craftsman, Musashi believed a warrior needs to have the right tools at his disposal and mastery in using them. But once they exceeded their useful life, the unsentimental Musashi discarded them and moved on. I once heard this from someone who was a Shaolin discipline, master one form to perfection. Do not be the rabbit that picks up a carrot and then drops it as he tries to pick up another. Musashi seems to prioritize specialization over being a generalist. However, Musashi wrote this in 1645 in a world without automation and technology. In the modern day, code and machines can do highly specialized tasks for you. Being a polymath/multidisciplinary is a better approach. Example, when learning a new skill, do not expect to master it immediately. Instead, be patient and progress gradually. Application, focus on your current abilities and develop progressively. Number 17. Do not seek solace in religion or philosophy. Seek peace from within, not from external sources. This comes from a man who, according to Dokkodo, claims to have fought more than 60 duels before the age of 30, in most of which his opponents met death. This idea pervaded Musashi's life and writings, see Rule 8. Dokkodo describes the aforementioned Musashi as a journey in the course of which one put one's life on the line in order to make progress in the way of the sword. Musashi was more than willing to lay down his life in pursuit of mastery in the martial arts, and in turn, mastery of himself. The ever-present possibility of death only served to make the experiences more profound, and the lessons more ingrained. Whatever your pursuit, even if your life is not on the line like Musashi, remembering the finitude of life creates a sense of urgency, presence, and ambition. Fear of death makes warriors weak. Treat life like you would treat a sparring match. Be unafraid, calm, and focused. This will maximize your chances of victory. We're all dead in the long run. Example, when facing challenges, instead of merely praying, take specific steps to improve the situation. Application, cultivate patience and confidence in yourself instead of always relying on external resources. Number 18. Do not cling to outdated values. Old values may no longer be relevant in new contexts. As we've explored, in his final days Musashi gave away what little possessions he had to friends and family. His fulfillment came from his lifelong pursuit of the way of mastering the martial arts to which he dedicated his life. Following his legendary fighting career, he dedicated the remainder of his life not to accumulating land or useless trappings, but to teaching and training others, and refining his philosophies. Musashi was a ronin, i.e., a samurai with no master, a wanderer. Having no resources does not appear to be good advice for the modern day. Definitely save money for your old age. You're not an ascetic and probably can't hunt for food nor rely upon other people for your well-being. However, be smart about it. You are not in a who's the richest man in the grave contest. Once you're hit your financial independence number, it's time to focus much more family, children, health, and things like that. Example, with outdated work processes, be open to new methods and technologies to enhance work efficiency. Application, be willing to change and update your mindset to adapt to societal developments. Number 19. Do not dwell on past emotions. Memories and old feelings can trap you in the past. This was not hyperbole for Musashi. As we learned from the anecdote in Rule 15, he respected the gods and tradition, but relied only on himself. He cultivated his sense of personal agency, and throughout his epic life, his self-belief and self-efficacy served him well. The ancient Greek raconteur Aesop expressed the same sentiment in his tale Hercules and the Wagoner, summarized below. Driving his wagon after a heavy rain, a farmer gets stuck in the miry, muddy road. He did nothing to save the situation but feel sorry for himself. He cursed and screamed to the heavens, calling upon Hercules to save him. Miraculously, Hercules appeared, but he didn't save the wagon. He said only, "Put your shoulder on the wheel, man, and urge on your horses." Sulking won't save the wagon. Hercules will not help unless you make some effort to help yourself. And so the farmer put his shoulder to the wagon, urged on his horses, and the wagon emerged from the mud. God helps those who can help themselves. Always strive to do the best you can. Never depend on luck. People who rely on luck fail because they have no plan. Always be bold, persistent, risk-taking, and prepared, the 4 facets of luck, but keep a level head regardless of what outcome you get. Example, instead of lamenting a former relationship, be open to new people and new experiences in life. Application, focus on the present and prepare for the future rather than regretting the past. Number 20. Do not depend on tools for assistance, such as weapons. Instead of relying on external tools, focus on developing your own skills. Fellow samurai Ishida Mitsunari once said, "Honor may not win power, but it wins respect, and respect earns power." Of course, honor is a revered concept for warriors throughout history. The samurai bushido, the laconic code of honor in ancient Sparta, the code of the West in America's frontier, the Roman military's Stoic-inspired ethics, the knight's code of chivalry in medieval Europe, and many more. Morals, virtue, and honor were encoded into each ethos. Rather than back down and sacrifice his honor, Musashi claims to have fought an unfathomable 61 duels, enjoying near mythical success. Because of his ethics and legacy, he has since been canonized. Musashi is now considered a kensei, a sword saint of Japan. While you should not regret anything you've done, this does not mean you do dishonorable things. Never do something that isn't compatible with your internal code of ethics. All in all, I'd rather lose honor than life, but only in life and death situations. Honor can be regained, but if you lose your dice, you can never play again. Example, in the workplace, rather than completely depending on technology, hone your soft skills and adaptability. Application, in your work, cultivate knowledge and skills rather than being wholly reliant on technology. Number 21. Maintain a calm mindset even when facing difficulties. Calmness helps us face and resolve challenges wisely. Whatever your mission, whether you pursue the way, mastery of your own performance area, your life's work, or some other extraordinary goal, Musashi was an advocate of deliberate, unwavering discipline and focus. You will be tempted by attachment, attention, luxuries, and glamour. There will be doubt. Your enthusiasm will wane. You will question your path. But the way is the ever-ascending journey. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. As Albert Camus once wrote, "Never stray from the path. Enjoy the happiness of pursuit. Find joy in the journey." When you genuinely believe in something, go all in. You have less time than you think. You will grow older and weaker, and your energy levels will go down. You don't have a second to waste. The Dokkodo is an interesting and honest view of life. Hope you found it useful too. Example, when facing a crisis, such as job loss, calmly plan your next steps instead of panicking. Application, when under pressure, take time to calm your mind, meditate, or practice deep breathing to rejuvenate your energy and keep your mind clear.